GIC stands for Global Impact Celebration. It's basically a missionary celebration. And what it does is bring missions directly to the church members so that they can interact with each missionary and organization. And so it becomes personal. Once you get to know the missionaries, it becomes personal, and you want to continue that relationship. And one way of doing that is through the Faith Promise. So the Faith Promise is a commitment that God will provide over and above the regular tithing that you may do for your church.
I actually first heard of the Faith Promise while I was working at First United Methodist Church in Tuscaloosa. They did a Faith Promise there. At that time, I didn't give, I wasn't able to give, but afterwards, heard many of the stories there of how just God provided for people, unbeknownst to them, where that help would come from. I sat down with my wife and we thought about, we wanted to give, and we thought about what we should give and how much we should give. And not even 3 days before the GIC Sunday where we were giving our Faith Promise, an event happened in our life that gave not the exact amount, but very, very close to the amount that we decided that we were going to give.
We attended the GIC last year and we made our Faith Promise. A month later, my wife, we knew that she was going to be retiring. What we didn't know was 2 months later I was going to be caught up in a massive layoff in a major corporation. But we stayed with our Faith Promise and we continued to do everything. And sitting on the couch fuming, and all of a sudden a former client of mine I hadn't heard from him for 5 years called me that same day and said, "Is there any way you can fly to Buffalo and help us out? Take some vacation, do anything?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, yes, I can." Then I had 2 friends from other companies check to see if I survived this massive layoff that was in the news. And I told them no, everybody who worked for me was laid off. They got rid of my whole division. And I had 2 job offers. So that was day 2 of being laid off. And so when I actually did the work in Buffalo, I did it under the company that I finally chose to go to work for. And so my wife and I, Joanne, we recognized that God was working in our life.
Actually, when it came time to sign the promise card, I was a bit undecided what to do. I was really enthused about the GIC and the impact it could have on our church. But having just done for me, a substantial pledge card for our annual budget, for my tithe and offering, I was wrestling with a number. So finally I made the commitment, having faith that somewhere along the way that I would be able to fulfill that promise. It wasn't a week after the GIC ended that I got a call from a lady that I had interviewed. She and her husband, I'm in the financial services business, and a few days before GIC I'd interviewed the 2 of them about some retirement planning. And so a week after GIC, I received a phone call and asked if she could come in to invest her money. And so of course I met with her, and my compensation for putting together that plan and for it being fulfilled gave me a number in compensation that was actually 4 times my promised amount. I know that was a God thing. I never thought it would happen, but He made it happen, and it was totally unexpected. I do believe that if you have faith, things will come to pass.
Last year was my husband and I's first experience with the Faith Promise. We participated in that through the GIC, and it was such an incredible experience. We prayerfully considered what we wanted to put down on our card, and with some conversation and prayer, we wrote down a number, and we're very excited. Mary had been talking about expecting to see God to do something, expecting that He was going to provide, and so we were very much in a spirit of expectation and waiting. And it wasn't 3 weeks after the GIC that we received a check in the mail from our mortgage company, and they had overcharged us. And we were so excited, but we were also just dumbstruck, because even though we had been expecting God to do something and waiting for God and looking for God to do something, He did it.